Welcome to the HypeLight Podcast Experience, where we teach you what you won't learn in school. From careers to financial literacy, we give you the information you need to bridge your passion with your purpose. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Jay. Jay Levine. Jay Levine is a realtor who, before he was selling millions of dollars worth of real estate and building his own real estate group, he was selling you your first cell phone. Jay lives his life and runs his business with integrity at the forefront of everything he does. His love for people and relationships was built through years of watching his father run his own hardware store. A member and coach of a sales mastermind group called Unblinded, Jay has developed and learned the ideal way to build authentic, integrous relationships with complete strangers. Jay, welcome to HypeHuddles. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. Look at the relationship we have. And I've never met you before. And we already know we have this great relationship already. Isn't that awesome? No. Yeah. Bro, thank you so much for having me. That was an incredible introduction. Really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Happy to have you here. I know a lot about you and your story, but for our listeners, would like to take us into your current work and your current profession. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days?
Yeah, well, no, thank you. Again, thank you so much. I think, first off, again, I'll acknowledge the fact that I think this platform is incredible. Someone who is went the non-traditional path of learning myself, is intrigued by what you guys are doing here and who you're touching. And, the fact that we have students and professionals joining together to merge their ecosystem, I think is incredible. So my wife and I, to be very honest, we own our own real estate company. Not something I thought I was going to be saying when I was 16 necessarily. I did know that I didn't think I could work for somebody. I knew I always wanted to, I had that entrepreneurial spirit. My father, like you said, owned a hardware store. My grandfather even owned a hardware store. And they taught me at a young age that, building relationships was the fundamentals of good business, and just in general, the fundamental of never burning your bridges, always making sure to put the relationship first, put people before profit. And that's something I've always lived by. Also, I have a bit of the gift of gab, and I like to talk to people, so I'm not really too shy, as you might be able to tell. So, those things put together led me to a career in sales. Along with what I said, at 16, what I was doing wasn't exactly studying. So I went that non-traditional path. In fact, I went through years of schooling that, quite honestly, I might have, if I had a chance to do it over. Oh, I wouldn't drop my light. There we go. Sorry, guys. If I had a chance, to go back, I would have something to say to myself, which we can get into later. But I'll tell you this: it was May 23rd. It was 2016. It was my son's 5th birthday, and I'm standing outside of realty school in Maywood, New Jersey at the time. And I remember it was like an absolutely beautiful day. The sun was shining. There was not a cloud in the sky except for one. And it was right above my head. And it was holding a large amount of debt. I'd owned a Verizon wireless store, as you mentioned before, which afforded me incredible opportunities, like meeting incredible people. What it also did was put me in a situation where I was in a bit of trouble in 2016, and I was a couple $100,000 in debt. I was months behind on rent. And at that moment, I realized, again, it was more than just a job. This was my legacy at stake. And it was my son's birthday. And I figured, what a better time to make a promise to the family than on my son's birthday, which was May 23rd, 2016, which was just a couple of days ago. He just turned 10. Happy birthday, Jackson. Okay. So he was 5 at that time. And at that moment, I just put the flag in the ground and I said, there's going to be no more. I'm no longer going to be at the mercy of, this retail environment. I'm going to make my own path. And we started our journey at 194 in 2019. And this was right before, you guys heard of the coronavirus, right? It was right before the coronavirus. We started our business. So it was like, wow, I got lucky, got out of my business for Verizon, sold my store, got into real estate. We started to crush it in real estate. We doubled our business every year. And in 2019, we're going to open our own brokerage, and a global pandemic hits. And we go, whew. But I will say that in 2020, we did over 22 million in sales. We Our team crushed it. We had an incredible year. And I don't say that to brag. I just say that to show you that relationships and integrity and being able to have influence on people with integrity and getting from hello to yes means everything. And the more impact that we have, the more yeses we get, the more communities we build with that love rather than transactions. Because real estate to us is not a transaction. It's a relationship. So that's where I'm at right now, Will. And we are busy, man, because 2020 was crazy and 2021 is even crazier.
Well, busy is good, right?
Busy is good.
I actually wanted to kind of unpack that a little bit, if you don't mind, for those of our listeners who may be interested in kind of discovering the path to from being a realtor to actually owning your brokerage. Could you explain the difference and maybe the process you went through? You said you went through a realtor school. How long did that take? What's the path for someone who wants to become a real estate agent?
So first off, I'll say this. There's two paths, okay? Or there's the same path, but there's two different meanings to this path, okay? There's the how to do it, which you can go online and find out how to do it. And then there's the why you do it. You know, I think you have to make sure the why you do it is in line with the how you do it, or the why you do it comes before the how you do it. Because why we do this, like I said, it's to impact people. It's about legacy. I know the more people I impact, the more yeses we get, the more legacies we help create, the stronger my legacy becomes. So if I put my legacy last, so to speak, I'm really reciprocity kicks in, and that some people can think of that as a bad word, but when it's with integrity and not with expectation, it's like gravity, it happens. We serve, we look to add value constantly. That's something that, when you work with 194 Real Estate, when you work with Team Levine, we look to add value into every situation, every interaction that we encounter. So the why you're doing this is very important. How? You definitely got to pick a good school. I had an incredible school. I'll plug him. Kovats Realty School. Kyle was the teacher. He was, I think, 31 years old at the time. He's probably only 36 right now. He was one of the top realtors in New Jersey. He won like a 30 over 30 award, and we just vibed. And having a good teacher was very helpful because it just, learning, again, 2006, we go back to when I was 16, what I was doing and how I was learning. I didn't think school was my thing. I was always told I was a bad listener, and I kind of adopted and inherited that a bit. So, limiting beliefs are something we could talk about a little bit later too, but, limiting beliefs you start to inherit when you're told over and over again, as a kid, you're a bad listener. I thought I was, but I'm not a bad listener. I'm a great listener when I'm listening actively. So I just have to make sure that I'm paying attention to listening. Level 5 listening, which is really deep listening. So what happened is I got to this school. I had a great teacher. I was able to get through that class. Honestly, in my opinion, maybe it was because I had a lot at stake. Maybe it was because there was $200,000 in debt behind me. Maybe it was because, I had 5-6 months of no rent paid at my Verizon store. Maybe there was a lot at stake for me. So maybe that's why everything became frictionless. That's why it fell into place for me, because I had that why very clear. I mean, there was no doubt why I was doing what I was doing. The how was just a formality. I knew why. So went to that school. You go to class. I was fortunate enough to own a Verizon wireless store at that time. And I wasn't paying rent anyway, so I might as well just not go to work for 3 months. No, so for 3 weeks, I took the real estate class every day, which you can do. You can take the real estate class Monday through Thursday, basically like 8 to 1, 9 to 2, something like that, for 3 weeks straight. And then you can take the school test. Once you pass the school test, you move on to the state test. Once you pass the state test, then it goes into finding the right brokerage, getting your fingerprints done, doing the background checks, signing up with the local boards. The brokerage is in charge of that. So like our brokerage, when you come as a new agent, you've passed your school test, you passed your state test, you've gotten your fingerprints, and now we're registering you with the Bergen board, registering you with the NJMLS. So you have access to those things. So the how is very, the why is super important. And once you get through those schools, which, some people get through it quickly and let's say easily, and some people, tell me they don't take tests well. What I always say to the new realtors that ask me this is look around at how many realtors there are. And then remember, they have all passed the test. So it is possible. So, it's daunting at times. The real daunting fact here is not how many times you fail that test. It's the percent of how many realtors fail in their first year and quit and don't do anything. And that's 93%. So our goal is not just to sell homes, but it's to impact that percentage. Now, it's ambitious to think that I can impact that percentage nationwide, worldwide, but I can certainly impact that percentage within my brokerage. So I can tell you that in my brokerage, 93% of our agents succeed. And I think that's actually low. I would say it's higher than that, because we give you the tools to succeed, and we show you how to succeed. It's not just about real estate. It is about the relationship. So finding the right brokerage, once you take those 2 tests and pass, finding the right brokerage is very important. It's finding the right relationship. So when we're looking at agents, a lot of agents think, that you go to a brokerage and it's like you get to pick which one you want to work for, which is the case most of the time. But we don't hire just anyone. You have to fit within the culture and what our mission is. And our mission is to help people find their place, whether that means a home, or whether that means a place in our company, or whether that means a place in the world. Wherever that means, we help people find their place. We turn your dreams into an address. So that's those are our taglines, but they're also what we do at our core. So again, the how is important. That's pretty simple. Go to school 3 weeks. You could also take like a 6-month course. You could also take an all Saturday course. I mean, there's a lot of ways to take that course. You can find that out online. But once you pass those tests, the most important part is actually finding the right brokerage to work with. And there's a lot of brokerages out there that offer a lot of initial training and things of that nature, but then kind of leave you high and dry afterwards. I will tell you that we're the only brokerage, you mentioned the Unblinded formula, we're the only brokerage where the leader of the team is trained in the Unblinded formula, which again, I say this now and someone might not know what that is. And I am confident that within the future, in the short future, you may know those words in that company a little bit more. And again, that's a story for another day, but it's about integrity-based human influence and going from hello to yes with integrity, and being able to listen, being able to match and mirror, acknowledge, being able to love people with boundaries. It's super important. Asking powerful questions. So, all these things are important, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit further, but yeah, that's the start. Have the why. The how is to go to school and pass those 2 tests. Don't get too in your head about those tests. They're made to, I feel like they're made to potentially be a little confusing. You kind of have to just go with common sense and, be like anything else, be in your heart rather than in your head. And then come to 194 and we'll show you the rest.
And so what made you want to go from being the realtor to eventually owning the brokerage, right? So, and maybe a little bit about that process and what it means to be a brokerage, as some people might just want to be a realtor, right? Or, so can you explain the difference?
Yeah. So in vulnerability, Will, there's a couple sides to that question. First off, I always had plans. The minute I became a realtor, my goal was to own a brokerage, because I just come from owning the Verizon wireless store. So to me, it was like, why work for a company when you could own your own? That's been how I've gone about this, even with the Verizon. I worked for Verizon initially. Opportunity came to own a franchise, took the opportunity to own the franchise. It was scary as all hell. Did it anyway. I remember actually here, quick footnote, Verizon store, reverse. I am now real young. I'm not too far from that guy that I was talking about that was at 16. Like at that point, I was probably 23 years old, and I'm about to open up a Verizon wireless store with a $4,500 rent in a big plaza in Emerson. And my dad, he's a carpenter, own the hardware store, and we're putting up a wall. And he says to me, he goes, "How much is the rent here?" And I'm like, $4,500. And he's like, and this was 15 years ago. He's like, 45. I'm like, $4,500. He's like, whoa, how you gonna pay that? I'm like, I have no idea. I was like, I have no idea. I have no clue. And you know what? I say that in a little bit of, that's what I said in vulnerability. It's a little bit of a joke, but you can't be afraid of failure. You can't be afraid of rejection. You have to take a chance. I don't know any other entrepreneurs. That question in the beginning, to me, is something that entrepreneurs all do, is they take a risk. And they, it's a calculated risk, but they take a risk. You have to do. You can't always sit back and, be romantic about it, as they say. You got to get out there and do. Sorry that I jumped off topic there. Well, I kind of missed what I was even where you even wanted me to go with that. But so I went from realtor, and I got it back. So I never really had any other plans than being the owner of a brokerage, or at least potentially the manager of an office of a brokerage. Okay. So my goal was always to be there. So what I did is I put my nose to the grindstone. I thought when I went into that real estate office for the first time, I thought I was going to have a mentor, and I didn't. I had someone who wanted to be, who needed an assistant, basically. And I was unaware that that's how it was going to go down, that I was going to walk into this office where I was told, like, hey, we're all going to crush it together. We're a small office. Let's do it. And I was like, basically like started to be given things like an assistant. And I said, I owned a Verizon store still at this point. This was 2016. I said, I have a full-time business. I can't be doing what you're trying to do here. So I went back and I worked out of my Verizon store. So I did the Verizon and real estate side by side. And also I do credit card processing, totally another story. But, so at the same time, and I didn't have a mentor. And this was before teams. Like 2016 was right at the cusp where real estate didn't really have the team aspect. And when we first started, my wife is a realtor with me. She wasn't a realtor yet. I called myself Team Levine. I just liked the way it sounded. So I figured, you know what? I think I'm going to have to start branding myself. I'm going to start putting myself out there. I started going on Facebook. I started making live videos. They were horrible. I remember doing it. They weren't live. They were just videoed. And I would stand there for hours and make sure it was perfect. It was the biggest waste of time. But I was learning the ropes of this new world of social media with real estate. And I'll tell you, that was one of the biggest things in the transition, was creating the relationships with people you don't know. Talk to people you don't know, build those relationships. And I started to ladder myself up. And before you know it, we're selling a lot of real estate. We're doubling our business every year. And we're on track this year for almost 50 million in real estate. And again, it's through the power of influence, integrity, and ecosystem merging, having real relationships with the ideal avatar. And we're going to do an activity later where we're going to, if we have a volunteer that wants to join in, where we talk about talking to the ideal avatar and getting a yes from that person and what that looks like. Today I got a deal today, and it's not a referral. A referral is very one-sided. I can't give enough referrals because I don't have enough clients. But if I can merge with another professional who we both have the same goal in mind, but we're not competing for that client, we're working together for that one client. Now you can gain new clients rather than refer back and forth. Now you gain new streams of clientele. So, it's for us, it's about powerful relationships.
And so once you started to, double your revenue year on year, and you and your wife, you brought your wife on, and then you decided that, hey, it's time to do a brokerage. Did you buy out the existing brokerage, or how did that?
My wife was in charge from the beginning. She brought me on. Just wanted to clarify that. No. So as we started to grow in the business, we didn't necessarily, to be very honest, we didn't have a plan of exactly when we were going to make that jump. I actually thought first I was going to go and get my broker's license. So here's a quick footnote. You don't have to have your broker's license in order to open a brokerage. You do, however, have to have a broker in that office. So I do not hold a broker's license. I was supposed to get it in the end of 2019, and that didn't really work out well with what happened next. So we opened the business. We were like, oh, we're a little busy. Maybe I'll do it in December. And then we were still busy. And then all of a sudden coronavirus hit, and we weren't doing much like that. So I'm not a broker, but it doesn't stop me from owning my own brokerage. Now, our trajectory was going over the years, and we were starting to gain a lot of momentum, and things were stepping out of that arduous stage and starting to work into, good momentum for us. An opportunity arose where the company that we were with didn't seem to want to be in the office that we were at anymore. So they wanted to consolidate that office to another office somewhere else. So we had an opportunity at that point, kind of like thrown in our laps, where, hey, we can open our own company, let them move out, and we can just stay and move in. And we did that. And I will say another one of those experiences in my life, and I hope this gives somebody out there some inspiration and some, just overall, hope. How do you start a brokerage? I had no idea. Like, it's not something you can Google. Like, I mean, I guess you can, but I don't know. So how do you do it? You take the first step and you figure it out. And then you fumble and you take the next step and you figure it out. And you fumble and you fumble and you go and you move. And I failed 1,000 times and I'm at the finish line. And there's the person who's still reading or still researching that hasn't started yet. So I would rather fail 1,000 times and wind up at the finish line and look back and see the person that's still perfecting how they're going to go forward. So that's how we did it. Called the state, got them on the phone, got the process down, called an attorney, had, have a lot of great connections. So I had a good attorney friend and got the process started, got the paperwork filed with the state, opened up the bank accounts, hired a broker. We had a broker that we brought into the office. And we were incredibly lucky that when we left, we were the managers of that office in New Milford. And we had about 8 other agents at that time who we didn't want to take from the company. That wasn't our intention to take from someone else's company. We didn't want to be there anymore, but we would never want to just uplift them. So we told them that we were going and obviously said that, if you guys, you do whatever you want, don't feel obligated. And all of them were like, what are you kidding? Like, of course we're coming. Like, we're not going anywhere. We're with you guys. So we had 7 or 8 incredible agents come over with us. We're now up to 14 agents since we've opened. And it's quality over quantity. It's about relationships. We joke around. It's like when I'm interviewing somebody, I'm like, I think about it and kind of jokingly, it's like, all right, would this person take a bullet for me? But not in that sense, but in the metaphorical sense, does it feel like this person has my back and is really truly looking out? Do you see your future in me? And do I see my future in you? And when that connects, and that's what it's all about. Every day it's about hello to yes with everybody that we're talking to, whether it's parents, whether it's employees, whether it's clients, whether it's coworkers, whether it's teachers, guidance counselors, friends, family. It's about getting from hello to yes. It's about getting what you're looking to get, as well as serve, and not just be there for what you want and benefit through, but actually be there to listen to people. So it's something that we've developed and we practice over time at our company. And when you go and you have a listing appointment and you're up against, big companies, Christie's, Sotheby's, I don't have any fear, zero. And I'm not saying I get every one, but I know in my heart that if that person chose someone else, it wasn't because of, it was most likely because of the name and not because of the relationship. Because I know I've done it over and over again and been able to get from hello to yes with people against big companies like that. And there's a reason. So I'll zip it there.
No, you definitely shared a lot there. And I'm still, I have one more question around the brokerage, and then I want to kind of get away from that because I know I've lingered here for a little bit long. But in terms of the brokerage, what are the benefits of opening your own brokerage, and why did you, obviously I know that you're entrepreneurial and you wanted to own a business, so you knew that, but for someone listening, what's the benefits of having a brokerage versus being just a realtor?
So honestly, being a brokerage is not going to be for everybody. In fact, it's probably for, a very small percentage, I would have to say. In fact, I get calls all the time from other brokerages that are looking to, take us on as part of their brokerage so that I don't have to, and they use the strategy of, hey, you don't have to be the small brokerage anymore, because listen, as an independent broker, we have to have our own processes, our own training, everything. Like I said, when you say well, I wanted to do this, who do I ask? When you own your own company, there's sometimes no one to ask, So what I will say is most people don't get to wanting to own their own brokerage because of reasons like that and having difficulty with the process. For me, process is definitely one of the points that we work on the most, because it is the hardest part about owning your own brokerage, is having a solid process that allows you to grow and continue to grow, and not be constantly managing, and actually being able to exponentially grow rather than just one at a time. So having a system in place is super important. What I love about owning my own brokerage more than anything else is it is me. It is an extension of my family. It is an extension of who I am. I couldn't even, I realize, I say it all the time. Like, I can't even think about saying other words coming out of my mouth, like that are, I'm not going to even say other brokerages names, but like, thinking about some that I've approached, like I couldn't even be like, hey, this is Jay with blank. It doesn't even feel right. It doesn't even feel right. So I would say for the right entrepreneur, owning your own brokerage is incredible. You have the power to impact many lives, not only clients, but the people that work within our organization. I have the freedom to train how I feel is right. I have freedom. What I will also say is it's not for everybody. And, it can be daunting. It can be scary. And you have a lot of people, you're responsible for a lot. There's also a lot of insurances. If you leave something out, you got to pay for errors and omissions insurance. So there's a lot of different fees that come along with it. So it's not easy by any means, but I do really enjoy it. I enjoy leading. I enjoy the feeling of pride that's behind that. And I try my very hardest not to ever confuse that with ego, because that also can be present, in vulnerability as well. At times as well, where it's not just ego because it's our names on the sign, where it's truly the right reasons.
Got it. So I mean, it through and through, you're an entrepreneur, you're a boss, if you will. Like, that's the mentality I'm picking up on. Can you take us back to your maybe childhood or early teen years? Like, where did this all start? How did this come to be? Were you always this motivated salesman, if you will? Were you always this kind of determined to be your own boss?
So, I think I said before, I have the gift of gab. From a young age, like talking to strangers was definitely a problem for me. Like, don't talk to strangers. Oh God, sorry, I can't help it. Like, I couldn't help but to talk to everyone. I couldn't help but to interact with everyone. So I think that, I definitely wasn't confident. As a younger kid growing up at school, I was a little pudgy kid. Like, I wasn't super confident, but I used his humor to I guess build rapport with people, and that was my shield, I guess, in a way, a little bit. But I used to have fun, and I really didn't let things bother me. I was always taught to use my words rather than anything else, and I didn't let things bother me. I let things roll off my shoulder for the most part, as best I could. But I think growing up, I was an only child, and I will say that I was a little spoiled. And if I didn't get what I wanted, I would figure out and negotiate a way to get what I wanted. So from a very early age, I was negotiating deals with my parents. And if I didn't get I don't remember many times where I didn't eventually get which is terrible. I think about it now and it's horrible. I have like 2 kids. They definitely don't always get what they want. But it's like, but I think about it now, I'm like, oh my God. But you know what? Like, as you get older and you fine tune that skill, it did turn into a skill. It did turn into a skill. And I thought I was something I was born with. And through the years now, and especially over 2020, when I was introduced to Unblinded, the things that I thought were just inherent in me, because, my dad was a salesman, my grandfather was a salesman. We were all entrepreneurs. We all loved to, my dad's hardware store was like the Cheers of hardware stores. Like, everybody knew each other's names. Like, it's typical something in the 80s, having a lot of fun. Like, that was the atmosphere. So this is what I grew up with. This is what I knew. And this is what I brought to everything I did. I never took anything too seriously. And when I was younger, that was to a fault, for sure. As an adult, sometimes it's still the fault. But having fun, that's been my number one. Make sure you're having fun in business. Make sure you're leading with your heart in business, and make sure you're truly doing this for the impact of people. And I've always been taught that. And I think as a kid, I was always negotiating on my own behalf constantly, and that just kind of carried out.
I think that's a beautiful segue into opening up the floor for any questions for anyone that's in the HypeHuddle. Does anyone have any questions for Jay? All right, well, I have a question. Jay, I see you on Facebook all the time, and I'm curious, has that helped you in, I mean, it must, because you're doing it, but for those who see social media as maybe like daunting or kind of unnecessary, what is your take on the impact it's had on you and your business?
So it is 100% at times daunting, or can be. What I have found is myself, people always tell me, they're like, your videos are they're so great. They're so this, and I tell you, there's many times where, like, before I hit play, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I don't feel like it. So it's about getting myself back into that state and making sure that I'm like, again, it's also going from hello to yes with myself every day. Self-mastery is a huge component of this, making sure that I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing to get to what I need, where I need to be, and to get to where I'm looking to go. If I can't get there, then other people can't. It's about going from that hello to yes with yourself every day too, and getting yourself to do the things that you don't want to do. We find that the most growth is when you're uncomfortable. That's something that, we go through all the time. But my team, man, I can't tell you how many times they're not doing social media. And we're talking about it the next day, like, hey, didn't see any videos from anybody yesterday. Like, it really does make a difference. And then we see them post something that's 40, 50 likes. And you know what? It's important because you go back to that post, right? If you really want to do this right, and you say to me, an agent can say, hey, I don't really have like this circle of people that I can talk to, but you post something on Instagram and you get 40, 50 hearts on it. Why don't you go back to each one of those hearts? And yeah, okay, maybe you can weed out the ones that are like family and friends, that are like people you talk to all the time, but pick those other ones that you don't talk to all the time and say hello. And that's it. And start a conversation and be like, hey, thanks so much for supporting my post. Like, it's the simple things. Talk to people you don't know every day, and I promise good things will happen. If you're talking to the right avatars of people, and they're people you don't know, it's if I talk to enough, unfortunately, divorce attorneys, those are great referral clients and ecosystem mergers for a realtor. Mortgage brokers, obviously, bankers, estate planning attorneys, real estate attorney, like these people. So talking to people you don't know is super important. So Facebook puts you in front of people you don't necessarily know and allows you to connect. So I think the follow-up from Facebook is important as well. So it's be on Facebook, be relevant. As you get more relevant, Facebook starts to move you up. What I did was, Will, about 4 years ago, I was with a company, maybe longer than that, longer than that. Like 6 years ago, I was with a company called Thrive, and they were like a multi-level marketing company. But they were right around the time where Facebook was really kicking off and selfies really weren't a thing. And I remember Ellen did that selfie. Ellen DeGeneres did like a selfie, and that became like the beginning of people doing selfies. Even though I'm telling you, I got selfies back in the day from like on Polaroid. But doing selfies. This company started to like advertise their product by doing like selfie Saturdays. I remember they called it, or something like that. And it was not something that was really happening. Like, I was like, take a picture of myself and put it on Facebook. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm used to like just typing in like a chat, like a status. This was like when it was just more statuses than. So all of a sudden that happened, and I was like, you know what? What if I just like all the people that I'm friends with? So for like a year while I was doing this company, I used to sit there at the end of the night and I liked and commented on like everyone's stuff, and the only ones I left off were political and racy ones. Otherwise, and all of a sudden, I would post and I'd be getting 60, 70, 100 likes on things, because Facebook's algorithm, now that all changed because Facebook kind of moved their stuff around, but I had kind of become more relevant on people's pages. So Facebook allows you to be relevant, but Facebook is where it begins, not where it ends. Experiential marketing, what we're doing right here, things like this. And, and if we can share quickly on the exercise, if there's a chance to do it, like how that works. Experiential marketing is really where it's at, because Facebook controls who I talk to. I don't want that. I want to control who I talk to. So Facebook's a good start. LinkedIn's a good start, but they're to get you to meet these people off of that platform and get them into real conversations to build real relationships and ask real questions and build rapport so that you become valuable to each other. Like, so that's what Facebook's morphed into for me. It's become less Facebook and now taking what's on Facebook and who I'm meeting on Facebook and turning those into real relationships in situations like this.
That was a great response, and I'm definitely gonna, steal some of those tips on, following up. It's just such a simple thing to do, but we become almost so connected. It seems it's like we're almost disconnected. Like it becomes so easy to like a photo, but you almost forget who liked what because it's like that simple now, or like what you liked.
Right. You don't even know what you're liking. You're just clicking down the line.
Yeah.
That's what it becomes. So people, especially now after 2020 and into 2021, real connection is going to be incredibly important coming up. Also, too, we went on a wild ride in real estate. And if anybody watches, and I'm not a big news watcher by any means, but if trends, real estate takes these trends 6-7 years up, down, and like this is how it goes. It's in waves. So, this isn't something that we haven't seen before. And I'm sure it's not something I'm sure it's something that we'll see again. So no matter what, people are like, oh, what are you going to do after all the real estate craze goes down? I said, I'm going to be just fine because we look to impact people. And no matter what, in real estate, you need to help people. So we'll be fine. In fact, we'll be better than fine. So, I'm excited for the future and whatever it may bring. I'm really, at this point, I think with the adversities that have been thrown at me in my 38 years, I'm not really afraid of anything at this point. And I think that's something that is going to help us going forward.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I think that brings up a good point. And it seems like if you survived 2020 as a business, it can't, things probably could get worse, but it's hard to imagine, things getting worse. So if you survived it, your business survived, you're probably going to be on the ups.
Well, when I was $200,000 debt and 6 months behind my rent, I didn't think it could get much worse. I wasn't ever at a point where I was like, man, this is like too tough. And I always felt like I knew I was going to get out of it because I figured I had to, I didn't really have a choice. Coach Coughlin, if you're going through hell, don't stay there. Keep going. You know what I mean? So I always knew I'd get through it. But yeah, it's at this point when I got through that 2020, like I said, it was 2019. I'm like, pandemic. All right. I'm a little scared, but we'll figure it out. We'll get it done. And that 2 weeks we were shelter in place. And after that 2 weeks was up, we had clients that wanted to buy houses and they were like, hey, listen, we're going to put on gloves, masks, hazmat suits. We want to be out there. So we never stopped. So it was a blessing, a true blessing. I couldn't imagine being sitting in that Verizon wireless store at that point and not knowing what to do. And then even after that, the fear of cell phones are disgusting in the first place, let alone during COVID. I couldn't imagine. In fact, I think that's why why I fared so well during COVID is because I've been exposed to so many disgusting viruses on cell phones for my whole life. We can get into really bad stories about that as well. I'm not going to, but cell phones are gross. So let's just leave it at that.
While we're on the topic, though, I do want to kind of come back to the Verizon story and ask, you mentioned being in debt. You mentioned having to sell the business. Real briefly, can you just share some of the, some of the things you learned from that experience and things that you learned not to do, and maybe kind of share how you got in that hole in the first place, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no. So there was a lot of things that I could, if I could go back and do a little differently. I think what I told you about in the beginning of why you get into something, rather than the how, is most important. Throughout the years of my Verizon store, I lost the why. I didn't want to anymore. It had become something that I was no longer passionate about. In the beginning, cell phones I had a job. I had a bunch of cell phones. We could talk about one. We could figure out what was best for you. And then years changed and I want an iPhone. I want this. You got to set up my Facebook. You got to set up my this. You got to set it. it became something very different than what it was years ago. When years ago it felt like I felt more impact on people. It became something where, cell phones became second nature. You picked one or the other, didn't matter which one. It just became too, like, I guess, mundane or I don't know what to say, but my heart wasn't in it anymore. I also think that a business like that, I needed to serve 300 people a month in order to be successful. That's a lot of people and a lot of personalities and emotions to deal with, not work until 8:00 at night on holidays, Black Friday. Man, when I had my first, when I had my first non-Black Friday work, I had not worked a Black Friday in like 20 years. And like the first time was when I sold my store in 2019. It was a Black Friday. I was like, I don't have to work. It was just such a weird feeling. So I had lost really the passion for it. I didn't feel like I was helping people anymore. It felt like we were aiding to this like lost society. Honestly, I didn't feel like I was helping anyone. People were angry all the time about their cell phone, emotional about it. Didn't work. It was broken. It lost a lot. So again, that's just where I left with it. So I used to enjoy sitting there selling phones. And what happened was I had to hire people to sit there and sell the phones, and I had to go in the back and do the paperwork. So all of a sudden, what I bring to the table, I know what I bring to the table, couldn't be there anymore because I had to do paperwork. So that became that became what really hurt the business the most, is that I could no longer be the front man because I had to take care of so much in the back. So something I've learned from that is to now leverage other human beings and do the things that I'm good at and delegate the things that I'm not. I didn't delegate anything. I did everything. And I wasn't good at everything. And the things I wasn't good at, I just didn't do good and moved on to the next one. Whereas if I had delegated it to someone that could, I would have been in a different situation. I also think that I didn't do any social media back then. And if I was doing social media for a Verizon store, the way I do it for real estate, I think the Verizon store would have been busier as well because it just would have been in your face more. So I think, the social media thing is something I would have done differently if I had to go back now, which you see more like you see retailers doing this every day with social media, with everything. So again, I was kind of at that cusp of time. I got really heavy into social media, but I just put it into real estate, and I like almost ignored the Verizon store a little bit. So I neglected it a little bit. But at that point when I started to neglect it, I was already struggling hard. I was already hundreds of thousands of debt. Another part of the story I didn't tell you is they made me redo my store. This is really what put the nail in the coffin, so to speak. They made me redo my store in 2017, I want to say. No, 2015 rather. And I had to spend $40,000 to redo my store, which they, kind of strong arm me into doing. And then if anyone knows Kinderkamak Road in Emerson, that's where I was. They did road work to Kinderkamak a couple of years back, and they shut down Kinderkamak for a full year. And my store was right in the middle of that. So we basically didn't work for a year. I mean, it was like, deserted for at least for a year. At Christmas, it was busy. The road workers weren't there. And then as soon as Christmas stopped, road closed again, nobody coming in. So that's really what put us like mostly behind and really was the nail in the coffin. And I will say that, through the power of positive thinking and, moving forward and always taking action, we found a buyer for the store. And we left that store $100,000 in debt, but it could have been way worse. And I will say that we're still paying that off. That was 2018 when we sold officially. And, we still pay that off, but I'm happy to say that that's almost done. And we're on to, doubling and tripling and quadrupling what we do in real estate every year. And, sky's the limit. Like I said, we're doing this to really leave our stamp on the industry. Relationships are everything. We do things differently. And when you do business with us, you find that out.
I appreciate you for sharing that part of your story, because I think it's important to understand, sometimes where you've been and, for our listeners today to understand kind of, what has driven you be this successful in real estate. So I appreciate you for sharing that. I wanted to open the floor again for questions for Jay. And if not, Jay, you can go ahead and lead your exercise. But I want to give it another chance for anyone to ask any questions.
You got it. And the exercise, guys, will depend on some participation if you're in. So please unmute.
I have one question, or maybe multiple, I don't know. But for someone who's still in high school, what should I do before I get into college? Like someone who's still young, who doesn't really have money and stuff, and who's like trying to look for a job and trying to like maybe like have a little bit of money so I can invest or maybe buy a house and start doing stuff. What should I do now so I could like improve in the future and be ready?
Yeah, great question. Well, so there's actually, Will, you had a question written down that I read before. I don't know if you're still gonna, I don't want to jump on that one if you're still going to read it, but you know, reading is important, but I truly don't feel that reading should take place of action. You know, a lot of times, like I said, you know, reading about something, reading the directions to something, trying to figure like that's all great stuff. And you can do that, but sometimes you just got to move forward. So what I would do is I would start modeling. I would start watching the people that are successful in what you think you would like to be successful in and start to model what they're doing. There are ways also to get involved with real estate companies. You know, I don't know, again, exactly where you're located, but, you know, for us, we speak to students. We're open to speaking to students all the time. Internships with local real estate companies, they do have that as well. You can certainly intern. You know, there's definitely real estate companies out there looking for people to help with paperwork and, you know, potentially assisting in transactions. So I would definitely look for people that are in the industry that are doing things that you see that you would see yourself doing in the future and start to model them and start to follow them. And again, following people on social media to see what they're doing and how they're doing it is super important. I used YouTube as my teacher for the first 3 years in business because I didn't have a mentor. My mentor was everyone on YouTube that I would figure out. You know, and even for instance, there's some investors. I mean, you know, you can find investors out there, Moz, if you were actually looking to do the investing yourself or actually go into it. You know, there are investors out there that, you know, you can invest with very little money, you know, and do some very creative things. Now, I don't get into the investing side in that fashion. We do, you know, fix and flips for investors, but as for, you know, creative investments and things of that nature, that is not our forte. So I don't want to answer that. But as for what you can do now to get yourself prepared, start following and modeling the people that are doing it the way you see yourself doing it in the future. You said you had a couple others. You can feel free. You can.
Not really. If I do have one, I'll tell you. But I was thinking about it, and you already answered it. So yeah, thank you.
So Moz, let me ask you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
What is something that you? Because again, real estate is the vehicle. But at the end of the day, the gas is influence. The gas is getting yeses from people that you need to get yeses from. And that's something you can practice right away. You don't have to wait. And it doesn't have anything to do with real estate. It could be it's in every setting, in every moment. We're constantly looking for yeses from people. So I would say also that is incredibly important. So what is something right now that is like a big yes that you're looking for in your life from potentially friends, family, work, school? Is there anything you could think of?
More like opportunities from school. Like if I could get more of like these type of classes, like quote unquote classes that I could learn more, or if my dad could help me like understand like more things, or if I could go out and buy more like books and just like how you said, like follow people and understand what they want to do, and like use them as a role model or some type of way.
Does your dad do real estate?
No, my dad does stocks, and I talked to him about stocks and whatever, but that was way too confusing. And I always like when I was younger, I always like how people were able to buy houses and flip them and make a profit out of them, and was able to like make a house like so nice for someone to live in and be so caring and stuff. Like I just loved how people like wanted to do that. So that just inspired me to like get more involved and whatever. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. No, and the reason why I asked, because for instance, the exercise that we'll roll into, if you want to participate, we'd love to have you. Basically, if you were to speak to a guidance counselor in your school or speak to a director in the school that has anything to do with curriculum, and you wanted to have some sort of real estate related class or investment related class, how would you get to yes with that teacher? And that's the exercise that we'll try to do in a little bit if you're up for it. But just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'll be interested. Yep.
Awesome. Samantha, you out there? If you feel free to ask any questions if you are.
Jay, you want to give it one shot for one round of hello to yes?
Yes. So Moz, are you down to play a little game here?
I'll try.
All right. That's what I like to hear, Moz. That's what I like to hear. So we said it before. Now we can kind of reset this if you'd like. Who is the ideal yes you'd be looking for? And we can go with what you just said, the fact that you'd like to have chances to learn more about this in school. So is there someone in mind, a guidance counselor or a teacher, or even like you said, dad, whoever that person would be, to give you that knowledge that you would, want to get a yes from for this request?
I have like a really great relationship with my guidance counselor. So probably him, or because there's multiple and they're always, because I go to a business school and stuff. And that's why I wanted to go to a business school, because of real estate and whatever. And like maybe start my own business or whatever. Maybe go to my guidance counselor because he's been really supportive and everything.
I love it. That's even greater. So Will, would you be the honor of being a guidance counselor for the next 3 minutes or so?
Absolutely.
All right, Moz. So I'm going to say, and we're going to, Natalia, me and you will be the judges. Now, Moz, I promise, I don't know if you watch, American Idol or America's Got Talent, but we won't be Simon Cowell today. No mean judging here. But what we're going to do is point out some of the things that we liked and some of the things that we thought you can improve on. And we're going to give you a score 1 to 10. All right. But what I want to give you a little hint first. So it's a 3-minute drill, and we're going to do an approximate 3 minutes. Normally when we do this exercise, I have a timer, but I'm just going to look and just kind of do it by eye at the moment. We're going to pretend, I guess, that we're in the setting of in person or Zoom or whatever it might be, but Will's going to be your guidance counselor. What's Will's name going to be in this role play?
There's multiple guidance counselors, but I was going to say Mr. Rivera.
Mr. Rivera. All right, perfect. So Will's going to be Mr. Rivera, and Moz, you're going to be talking to Mr. Rivera about the addition of this class. And let me ask you one other pressing question, Moz. You sound like a go-getter. Anyone who's asking for more school classes is a go-getter, in my opinion. So is there a chance your guidance counselor is going to say, are you sure you can handle this? There might be too much on your plate. Is that a response you think you could get?
Not really, because at first I was in a computer school, and then he accepted me into the school with like really bad grades, and I showed to him that I was like really dedicated to do what I want to do with my future. So if I ask him for like advice for like real estate, or if he could help me, then I'm pretty sure like 100% that he will help me like, all the way.
So what I'm going to ask Will to do, Mr. Rivera to do though at the moment is Mr. Rivera, Will, channel your inner Mr. Rivera who had these initial potential doubts for Moz, or maybe not doubts, but concerns, so to speak, about about taking on this project and so Moz, because you obviously had to get your guidance counselor to understand that. So point being is, and here's the contrast. The 4 steps of communication for the Unblinded formula is, first is rapport, building rapport with someone. So when you're building rapport, it's a matter of thinking about these 5 questions. Where have you been? Where are you now? Where are you going? What are some things that are working? And what are some things that are not working? When you get to the point of asking and finding out some things that aren't working for a person, you wind up finding out what's at stake for them. Just like what I told you before, what wasn't working for me was the Verizon business, and I was in debt. What was at stake for me at that point was my family, and there was nothing at that point that was going to stop me from getting to where I needed to be, because I discovered what was at stake for myself. So in the formula, in step 2, you want to discover what's at stake for the person that you're speaking to and why they would want to even say yes to you. And then once you get to that, it's about conveying your heroic, unique identity. So it's about saying to somebody what it is that is what makes you special, what makes you heroic, what characteristics. And that's, you don't want to say that in the beginning, because what happens in the beginning is if you start to tell all the wonderful things about yourself, it could break rapport, because most people want to feel seen, heard, and understood before they're open to hearing what you have to say. So you have to open up someone's listening by making sure that they feel heard, seen, and understood. So when you're first speaking to Mr. Rivera, and then step 4, getting into that agreement formation after we go through that. So again, we're gonna have some fun with this. We'll do it for 3 minutes. Moz, you will be calling Mr. Rivera and asking about this class. And Mr. Rivera, you may be a little hesitant to give a little pushback. And Moz, let's see how you handle it. And we'll start with 3 minutes. Does that sound fair?
Yeah. So should I just say should I be ringing or whatever?
Yeah. So what we'll do is we can say ring ring. I love it. That's how we usually start to roll this off. So I'm going to start the timer and ring ring.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Rivera. This is Moaz Parvez from sophomore, and I wanted to ask you if there's any because recently you guys gave me a thing on Pupil Path, a thing about real estate, and I've been really enjoying the classes and everything. And I wanted to know if I could have a bigger opportunity and stuff to learn even more about real estate and get more involved.
Well, Moaz, I'm happy that you found something that you're interested in, but are you sure that you could take something like this on? I know that when you came to us, your grades weren't that great. So are you sure this is something you would be interested in?
Of course, because no matter what, even though during the pandemic I was able to increase my grades significantly and bring up and get really high test scores and stuff. And right now I'm doing great in school, and I really want to focus my school and something else, because right now all I do is sit home because of the pandemic, and recently I got injured. So basically all I could do right now is stay in bed and heal up. So I really want to be focused into real estate, because that's really what my goal and what I really want to do.
I'm sorry to hear about your injury, and I understand that you're really interested in real estate, but I really just don't see it being something that the school would be interested in. We didn't get too many other students that showed interest. I don't really know. You're gonna have to, convince me a little bit better that this is something that maybe you would find value from in your peers.
Ever since I came to you in the middle of the school year in freshman year, I showed you that a kid who has borderline grades, who's almost failing, could bring up his grades to honors, and that he could push himself all the way no matter what. And I really want to tell you that I won't let anyone down, and I really will love to grow relationships with my peers and whatever, and grow my relationships to start a business and start supporting myself, my family, and just in general want to improve, because that's what I really want to do right now. And what I'm really dedicated to do right now is make a name for myself and prove to myself, and not to I don't really care about what other people think, but to prove to myself and my family that I am determined to to complete what I really want to do.
That's a great point. You did bring up your grades, and that was really impressive, in considering all, the living throughout a pandemic. So, you know what, I think we can look into it, and I think we could probably find some space on the schedule to bring into a real estate class for you, Moaz. So you got it, buddy.
Boom. Great roll. Great roll. Great job. Great job. First off, Moaz, let me just say this. I do a lot of these. I facilitate a lot of these with adults, professionals in business, 50 years. Okay. They don't go into it with the confidence that you went into it just now. Doing this is not easy. being put on the spot about something is not easy. Even though when you say put on the spot, you look down, there's no spot. So that's a fake one too. Can't be put on the spot, no spot. Awesome job. Just really amazing job. I'm super impressed, and you can certainly you can work in my real estate office. Don't worry, okay? But Natalie, can you give me first and foremost, how did that feel for you? How did that feel? Speaking to Mr. Rivera.
Not nervous at all, really. It's just like if I'm really determined for something from like a young age, from basketball to football to my grades and everything. I learned from a young age that if you really want something, you have to push from it. That's what my dad taught me, and that like no matter what, you should never quit, because in the end of the day, if you quit, then what are you gonna do with your life? So even if I'm put on the spot, no matter what, I have to push. Who cares if he says no to me? If I can't prove myself, I'll go to the next person, and if he doesn't prove to me, then I keep on doing it and I get better, and then I go back and then I show them that I'm better than what they thought I was.
Amazing. Awesome answer. Natalia, what if you can give us like a 30-second feedback, a couple positives, maybe something that you would improve upon, but overall, and then overall score. But I'm blown away.
Yeah, same. Honestly, kudos to you, Moz, because I feel like I wrote down like you jumped right in, and you led with like what you're really interested in, what you liked that they were already doing, right? So appealing to like, hey, like you're already doing this awesome, and I just want more. So I thought that was a really good approach. And I think you were really specific about like what you were looking to learn and how they could offer you that, right? Sometimes people need to know, like, it may sound like a big project, but if you tell them, hey, like, I just want to have more sessions like this, or if I'm looking to get something specific out of them, it paints more of a picture for them and it makes it more doable. So I really loved that. I think, Mr. Rivera was a little tough. He put the press on you, but I think it's important to be prepared in those moments. And I think you did a great way of showing like how you've grown and how you're ready for more. Like you are ready to take on more. So I thought that was really good advocacy for yourself. I think the only note, like, I think you deviated, right? When Mr. Rivera was like, well, none of your peers want to know about this. You were like, well, I'm going to make them want to know about it. Like, I love that vibe. But I think like, if that were to happen, be like, well, like I'm not my peers, and I understand that. So like, let me know how we can make this, whatever. You don't always have to go with whatever the person that you're trying to get a yes from, with whatever they're offering you. So if they throw you like that curveball of like, well, no one else cares about this, stick to your guns, stick to what you're passionate about, stick to where you bring it back to you, like about where your growth area is, and not only that's more specifically what that person can do for you as the individual, even if it doesn't mean you're starting a club on campus. So but I thought that was really good. I was like, okay, I see you. So great job.
Give him a 1 to 10 score. What do we got?
I give him like literally, I feel like 9.5, just because I feel like there's always room for growth. There's always room for growth, but that was killer.
That was killer. I think that's a very, very accurate score. Very accurate score. Like I said, there's some reverse those numbers. Some 61-year-olds that aren't getting scores like that. So, Moaz, if I could give you some feedback. First off, the things that you did incredibly well. Certainty off the charts. You knew what you wanted. You had your vision was clear on what you wanted to get to 100%. The other thing, when you speak, I feel like it comes from your heart. I never felt like at any point you got stuck in your head at any point. So everything you just shared with us, I know was all truth. I felt it. It came through. So your emotional and energetic transportation came through without even having your video on. I like all kinds of things are going through my head of what you look like, because that's just what happens to me when I hear people talk and I don't see their face. But I'm saying that you just did a really good job, like keeping me intrigued. Where I could say, some things that could be improved on, and there really isn't too many. There are all these. The things that can be improved are micro distinctions that are going to take you from a 9.5 to a 9.99. Vocal quality. So you want to have more of more inflection in your voice, more of a tonality shift. You want to be inquisitive with your tone. There are what we call the 4 energies. So there is Zeus, goddess, aspirational, and fun energy. So Zeus energy, you have a lot of Zeus. It's certain, it's powerful, it's direct, it's confronting. And I don't mean confronting in a bad way. I mean confronting in a non-fighting way. I mean confronting as in moving forward and moving through and not avoiding something. I didn't feel any avoidance in your conversation. It was head on. So that's fantastic. You also, just let you know, you created a great context for the conversation, and you always brought back the things that you had done to show in the past why saying yes to you means that you're going to deliver. And, you know, we talked about putting something at stake. What's at stake for a guidance counselor? You would think about like, well, what's at stake for him if he says, you know, this class? Well, what's at stake is the success of a student that he wants to see fly high. Like he has obviously a love or a respect for you, and he trusted you, and he feels good that he trusted you, and you came through and you did what you said you were going to do, and you crushed it, and you got your grades up, and you know you are determined. I feel all of that. One other thing you could do more of validations. So like Mr. Esposito, Mr. Rivera, I completely understand what you're feeling, and I honestly I don't disagree with you. I think about it myself, like, wow, it's kind of crazy that I want to continue to do more stuff. But you know what? I have determination. And then you go into, but we call it lava. And think of lava flows. And if you want to keep the conversation flowing, listen, acknowledge, validate, ask another question. Lava. Listen, acknowledge, validate, ask another question. That will keep the conversation flowing like lava. And you'll be learning about your person that you're talking to and building rapport, and then asking for, I mean, I don't think, Will, was that like that was a real yes? I mean, he convinced me. I'm sure, he had to have convinced you for real, right?
Yeah. Like I just couldn't imagine saying no to someone that persistent.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the scrolls, Og Mandino. Read. We talk about books, Og Mandino, the greatest salesman in the world. If you don't want to read the whole book, read the 10 sales scrolls. And one of them is I will persist until I succeed. So I agree 100%. So honestly, I give that a 9.7. I thought it was fantastic. I think with a little bit of a difference in your vocal quality, some energy shifts here or there, maybe a little more acknowledgement and validation. And that's a 9.99. And just a quick scale, 9.5 is $50,000 a year, I believe, if you were putting on the income scale. 9.9 goes up to like 100,000. 9.99 goes up to like 3 million, and then 9.99 goes up to 56 million. So basically what I'm saying is being an 8 to a 9, it's okay. But going from a 9.99 to a 9.999 and then to a 999, that's where exponential growth happens. And you really see the difference. So if you're a superstar like Moz, practicing this even further will continue to have you grow. And I can't wait to see what you do, buddy. So awesome job.
Thank you so much.
Jay, what was the acronym again? Lava, listen,
acknowledge, validate, and ask again.
Okay, I'm gonna add that into the message board because I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something that works well. And again, going into listing appointments and talking to people that are talking to other people, what they're not getting from anyone else, what they're getting from everyone else is benefit throwing. I can do this, the market's this, the book is this, I can do that, I'm going to do this for you, I can do. If I'm telling you all the things that I can do for you without knowing what you need, how integrous am I? Like, I don't even know what you need. I'm telling you what you need. That doesn't make sense. So little shifts, in what you're doing and making sure that you understand what someone needs before telling them what you can do. Speak into the listening of the person rather than just throw words at their face, And that's why I'm a good listener.
I thought that was great. Was that under 3 minutes too?
Yeah, it was
under 3 minutes. Awesome.
Yeah.
So we're crossing the 8:30 mark here. So I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Jay, we have a final 5 questions for you.
Yeah.
But before that, I want to open up for any final questions for Jay from any of our participants?
I see we have a new participant here. Did you see that? Look at that. I like that.
All right. Well, let's jump into our final 5 questions.
Awesome. So Jay, firstly, we want to know if you could speak to your high school self today, what is one piece of advice you would give to yourself?
Stop it. Cut it out. Not to take everything so seriously. Honestly, I don't think I would change anything. There's so many things that I think of now that, like, man, what I would have done differently in high school, but I don't know if it would have led me to where I am now. So yeah, could things have been different? Possibly. I think I would have just said to myself, enjoy it a little bit more, because it goes really quickly, which is so cliche, but I really truly believe that. I think everything that happened for a reason. So I wouldn't change too much.
Awesome. And I love cliches because I think they're just truth. So that's why they're always like cliches, right? Okay. So our second question for you is, what is your favorite business related book?
So I mentioned it before. So Og Mandito's Greatest Salesman in the World. The scrolls themselves, I'll read them off to you real quick because they're pretty quick. Scroll 1 is I will form good habits and become their slave. Scroll 2 is greet each day with love in your heart. Scroll 3 is I will persist until I succeed. Scroll 4 is I am nature's greatest miracle. Number 5, live each day as if it were your last. Number 6, master your emotions. Hard one. Number 7, the power of laughter. Number 8, multiply your value and and I added this, the value of every single ecosystem that you touch 100-fold every day. And then all is worthless without action. And then pray for guidance to whoever you may pray to, but pray for guidance.
I love that. All right, awesome. Definitely on my reading list now.
Yep.
Number 3, what is the most common trait that you've noticed in people who succeed in entrepreneurship, or specifically speaking to you within real estate?
The lack of the fear of failure, or the fear of rejection, which I think at the core of everything comes down to whether it's a fear of failure or fear of rejection. So I think the people that are most successful don't have those fears, or at least don't let them control what they do.
Yeah. All right. So what are some of your hobbies?
So real estate. No, hobbies are a tough one. This question gets asked like to me at times before. And I wish I had more hobbies, to be honest with you. That's why I'm wearing this. I really, really enjoy coaching my kids' softball teams, soccer teams, baseball teams. If I had off time, I would play golf. And I do enjoy playing tennis with some friends that we play in the morning. So I would say some golf and some tennis. And I really love our new family tradition starting last year is going to a lake house each summer. So I'm starting to really enjoy fishing more and paddle boarding and some of those outdoor activities, as well as sitting on the beach and doing nothing.
Both are very nice.
Yeah.
All right. And our final question is, what gets you hyped?
This right here, inspiring others, interacting with people I don't normally interact with, having experiences like this where we can be vulnerable, we can have some fun, impact, leaving an impact and a positive mark on people. Part of fear of failure, fear of rejection. There's also fear of misportrayal. And I'm one of those people. That's one of the fears that I work on. I try to work on hard, is that fear of misportrayal. I don't like when someone thinks something different of what I meant for them to think. And that's something that I work on every single day. But this gets me hyped. Interacting with people, inspiring, leading, being lucky enough to even be considered for something like this. I'm honored, and I thank you guys so much for everything.
Well, we're grateful for you. So thank you. And I'm really glad that you were able to be here with us, and definitely all the knowledge you dropped, I know is going to benefit everyone in this room, and also like people who will watch the recording. So thank you.
Hashtag replay.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Will, too.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Thank you for our participants who joined in, listened in. Moaz, anyone else that's interested, we're doing this every Thursday, so stay up to date with HypeLight through either following us on Instagram, which is just HypeLight followed by an _. Jay, how can how can our students get in touch
Yeah,
with
this
you?
is where I'm a little older than you guys. I'm like, what's my Instagram handle? I'm like, hold on a second. I'm trying to figure it out. So you could reach us if you Google 194 Real Estate Group or go to 194realestategroup.com. That is our website. It has all our social media. But here, I'll quickly, I'm going to share in the chat right now our Facebook page. Go. This is my direct Facebook page, which will link you to all of our other Facebook pages as well. But that is also where I get because I'm old, I get most of my traction on Facebook, and most of my newer realtors are like, Facebook? You got to go on Instagram. What are you talking about, Facebook? I'm like, well, I'm still on Instagram. I'm on MySpace advertising. So so yeah, I just dropped it in the chat where you can find me, or you can give us a call. You could always call my cell phone. I'll answer it anytime. 201-261 sold. That's that'll go right. That goes right to my cell phone.
Nice.
201-261 sold. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
Are you writing that, Natalia? Awesome.
Oh yeah.
There we go. So guys, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate this. It means a lot to give back. It really does.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story, sharing your knowledge, and hopefully down the line, we'll come back and do this again with you.
I would love. Oh, thank you, Natalia. Found my Instagram handle. I appreciate that. I'm trying to think of where I could find it. Even I'm like, how do you even find that?
I had a hard time finding it.
No, I would love
you.
to come back. I would love to come back. We can have maybe do like a round table discussion one day. I'm in.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. So anyone that wants to stick around and chat with Natalia and I about any other information regarding HypeLight and our organization, otherwise just stay up to date with us through Instagram and Facebook every Thursday. HypeHuddle 7 p.m. Everyone else have a great night. Jay, take care. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the HypeLight Podcast Experience. If you like this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest episodes.